Hey, welcome back to Mystery School Classroom Interview 4. I'd like to introduce my beautiful partner, Kate Haggerty.
Thank you.
Kate and I have been together doing this kind of work with recovery for a really long time. And something has come across to our attention recently that I think is some of the best questions that need to be asked in this field of recovery. I've been running a outpatient chemical dependency treatment center and therapy center for 30 years, and these are some of the finest questions I've ever thought about the field of recovery. And while I was doing that, Kate, you had your own career. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you did.
Well, I was an educator. I guess I'm still an educator. I was an educator for 40-some years. I recently formally retired. I worked with middle school students, high school students, parents, as a teacher, an administrator, as a counselor. Like John, my husband, I'm also certified as a chemical dependency counselor and a mental health provider. But I'm exploring new options. But the one thing that stays true for me is that education is kind of my passion, and I know that you don't just educate somebody's mind, that you respect the fact that human beings are complex creatures of emotion and spirit and intellect, and they're physical, and that's what's so exciting about this, which John will talk about where we found it. This is so exciting about these principles of recovery because they respect that.
Yes. And you know what? Luckily for me, I'm married to her because I'm ADHD, and I have been my whole life. And I can't really do a lot of paper learning and book learning very well. And even though I got my degrees and stuff, I had to fight through that. And I think this type of classroom and this type of presentation is really helpful for those who struggle with those kind of issues and who are in recovery for that too. So, yeah.
So I want to talk about where you found these.
You know, the SAMSHA, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services of America, they have a newsletter, and we saw these guiding principles of recovery they came up with. And they're excellent because the best thing about it is it takes the discrimination away. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, Kate?
Well, what we like about this is it talks about recovery, and it talks about it in the form of a lifelong journey, and also the focus is on wellness, not on dealing with past issues or past hurts or past I don't know, I'm struggling for a word here, but trauma perhaps.
Exactly.
And it's not that I'm negating that, because some people have been through, some people have horrific stories. But what this does is it says, if you are committed to recovering, then take this journey. And you can do it with a focus on wellness as opposed to with a focus on disease.
Right.
And we're not negating the 12 principles, for 12 steps. For some people that has been wonderful. And we're not saying abandon this. We're just saying maybe look at a different approach or add to it.
Right, like Carolyn Mace's classic book, would you rather put all your energy into your woundology, or would you rather put all your energy into being well, So, I think that too, that the recovery process that they have in these principles of recovery really stresses personal responsibility and participation into all facets of your own recovery, and how much energy you're going to put into that, and how much creativity can you put into that too. And those questions are very good questions that are needed to be raised and to discussed.
Right. And it also throws the whole perspective of the uniqueness of each person and the value, so that each person is taken where he or she is and encouraged spiritually, emotionally, physically, socially, intellectually, and even culturally to proceed and to look at their complex personality and to decide what's the best way for me to stay healthy.
Yep.
And we're not just talking about recovery, although from an addiction, although that is huge, but we're talking about what's the best way for me to be well spiritually. What's the best way for me to be well emotionally? As John has heard me say before, in my years of education, I've seen parents and students decide that the best thing they could do would be to transfer to a different school, and all their problems would be solved. Unfortunately, you take your person with you. And so you need to come to terms with who you are and what your needs are in terms of wellness and recovery. And that's a lifelong journey. We're all in recovery.
Yep. And you know what? When I first started out, they had a big reel-to-reel projector with a movie called Chalk Talk for Alcoholics. And the priest who gave the presentation had this quote that says, "If you have faith to move mountains, bring a shovel." You know, and that's the other nice thing about these principles is it really stresses your own commitment and a sense of responsibility every day, every hour, every moment to being the healthiest person that you can be, and to make every choice that you can make the healthiest choice that you can make, and be committed to that. And I think that's really important.
And yet it also focuses on, I think one of them talks about how you have to do this in terms of community.
Mm-hmm.
You know, none of us can do this alone.
That's right.
And so you need a supportive community. Mm-hmm. And what we hope to do over the next few weeks or months is to offer you strategies that discover and talk about each of these principles of recovery.
Right. It'll be a series.
Right. And
mm-hmm.
we want to, I mean, we might not have one for each principle, but what we really want to do is explore them, because we want to mine them for all the wisdom that they have, because it's great. It's great stuff.
Yeah, and you know what? We really want to commend the source of these principles is CSAT, C-S-A-T, white paper. So it must have been a study group, and I'm really thankful for everybody that participated in that study group or in those meetings for putting those principles together, because they're all issues that we need to talk about in recovery here. And
for those of you who, like me, are a visual learner, those will be at the end of our program. So you can say,
Exactly.
You can see, what are these people talking about, and how do I find that? So they will be at the end of the program, as will some other ideas that John has.
Exactly. So really, in your experience, in your last educational experience, you were kind of like the school had evolved to electronic classroom.
Mm-hmm. You know, right, surround learning, yeah. Which is a challenge for a 60-year-old woman, but
you figured out how to do this.
It's certainly how people learn right now.
Exactly.
You know? But we will also have other strategies. John's going to talk about his music part, and I have found that the visual is important, not just from Skype or videos such as this, but allowing people to create visually has been very therapeutic for some of my students. So I will be including journal techniques, some art ideas, because again, we're respecting each individual and how he or she, takes their journey.
Exactly. And this is our 8th mystery school classroom of many that we hope to create, is educational aids that can be used in the electronic classroom. Mm-hmm. And so if you've seen our earlier works, we're getting better and better.
We have a new camera person.
That's true. And the curriculum that finishes our segments are all our educational segments that Kate creates. We actually co-create together. And then if you're a teacher or if you're a trainer, you can use the questions for class discussion that are going to come up on a scroll after our segment here, and you can use them for your class discussion in your training.
Right, and we see this we see it for peer recovery coaches as well as for people who are in recovery. We just want to be of service because we found this, and we want other people to also use it.
Right, and even college classrooms.
Right. Mm-hmm.
These things can be used easily. Plus, they're going to be fun and entertaining because these are products made in Cleveland, Ohio, and we're rock and roll capital of the world. So, and it's also the birthplace and the cradle of recovery. AA started just down the road from here too. So, at the end of every one of our videos, I add music therapy, and so there's going to be a link. If you're a student in your classroom, you can have your teacher click on a YouTube link and have a little bit of fun at the end of the class to reward you for your hard work and your thoughtful discussion on these very important issues about recovery. So we hope that you like our products and that they are inspirational for your personal growth and study.
And we look forward to talking with you in the future as we explore each one of these more completely.